So I recently watched the Savix PvP video where he talks about how to properly balance PvP in its current state. And basically what it came down to was him saying that they should buff classes instead of nerfing the good classes in the game. But let's be honest, no one likes to be on the receiving end of some of the damage people inflict. I'm talking about Boomies, Red Paladins, Windwalker Monk, and even the Hunt from the Demon Hunter, and potentially Combust. Specifically, each of these classes offers one-shot mechanics into the game outside of Windwalker Monk, who just has incredible damage all throughout an arena match, but it's kind of unhealthy. So what can we do here to keep the game fun and away from one-shots in the dampening meta? It's simple. You really have to nerf some of the hard hitters in the current meta, unfortunately. Specifically, Ret's Kyrian one-shot, Boomy's Convoke, the Demon Hunter's The Hunt, and each of these abilities is capable of one-shotting someone. So simply nerf these abilities similar to how they did the Rogue Kyrian ability, essentially gutting the initial burst damage to get away from the crazy 20k burst from these abilities that can happen, and make it so that classes actually have a way to pop defensives reactively instead of just immediately dying in a second. Now we can talk about Windwalker Monk, who brings a lot of CDs to the table that all line up perfectly. I'm talking Zuen, Storm, Earth, and Fire, and Weapons of Order. And this basically allows them to have a huge mastery bonus and be able to use Rising Sun Kick more often than they would, as well as having Zuen, who can do hundreds of DPS on his own, and of course Storm, Earth, and Fire, which basically allows him to do 135% increased damage, I believe, from conduits total. And so basically they're able to hit your entire team with the Storm, Earth, and Fire, and hit your main target with Rising Sun Kick over and over and over again with the Mastery bonus, basically making them an incredible threat in the arena. And I know the main downside of Windwalker Monk is that they have really bad defensive cooldowns, so I would say just tone down their damage a little bit. I would say probably want to nerf the Mastery bonus from Weapons of Order, because that's typically what makes them do a lot of damage, especially with Rising Sun Kick, which can crit for, 9k depending on how geared they are, which for an ability that you can get a lot of those off, as well as having your Storm, Earth, and Fire also hit for 8k for whoever they're hitting, makes them absolutely ridiculous at the moment. And I think toning down Weapons of Order would help deal with that a little bit, as well as maybe toning down Zuen as well, because you could use Weapons of Order and Zuen at the same time, and it just would lower their upfront damage, because they'd still sustain a very high sustained damage over the course of the arena. And second up, we can talk about Fire Mage, because they bring a lot of upfront damage. If you've ever seen Zaryu and Mitch Jones actually do 2v2 arena or even 3v3 arena, and they got to 3k rating in 3v3 with double Fire Mage, which just shows the power of the Fire Mage. And I think that's typically from Combust, and I know that the problem with Fire Mage is that they heavily rely on Combust to actually do any damage at all. So we have two outlets for nerfing Fire Mage. I think the number one way they should Blizzard should go around nerfing it first is actually to nerf the Triune Ward, which gives them a 15k shield in arena on a 30-second cooldown, on top of, having Ice Block to heal the full. They have Dragon's Breath, Poly, and Ring of Frost to help kite. They really don't need to have this extra 15k health that they can keep putting up. And I think nerfing the Triune Ward would actually help their survivability and actually make you punish their downtime, because if you can survive Combust, the thing that the Fire Mage is going to try to do is farm up Combust again. And when all your cooldowns are up, you can pretty easily survive Combust, but it's typically when they're able to farm up Combust again before your defensives come back up where it really becomes a problem, because then you're pretty much guaranteed to die. And I think that nerfing Triune Ward would help mitigate their ability to farm up Combust again, because they're in a lot more danger to die. And I think we'd see Fire Mages be a little bit more manageable than they are currently. Now we can talk about healing in the game at the moment. And I'm not talking about healers, I'm talking more about off healers in this current topic. And specifically, I'd say probably Red Paladin, Enhancement Shaman, and Druids are kind of the biggest offenders of this. mainly because they have a lot of instant healing, or in the druid's case, they get a talent that heals them for like 25% of their HP every 30 seconds, and they can sit in bear form and things like that, and that makes them extremely tanky. And all three specs can be extremely tanky and hard to kill, especially if they have their cooldowns on, because it makes their healing even better. And if I were to talk specifically about one of the classes, I'd talk about Ret Paladin, and I think that it's very obvious for them how strong the healing is, and I'm talking about when they do 15k instant cast heals that don't take mana. And I think a common argument they use is that they have to use their damage, right? They have to use their damage, holy power. Instead of doing damage, they have to use it to heal. But that's like saying if you had to cast Flash of Light to heal, that that it's okay that you heal for 15k because you have to stand for 2 seconds to cast a Flash of Light, and you're losing damage by casting it. It's ridiculous. The logic is stupid. Of course, if you're healing, you're probably going to lose damage. Every class is like that, but the fact that you can keep damaging it and have it in your rotation even without having to cast a single ability, and you can crit heal for 15k should not be in the game. I think that definitely needs a nerf. I think enhancement shamans also have ridiculous healing, and also feral druids and boomies, where they just can sit in bear form and are super tanky and can keep using that ability every 30 seconds, making it extremely hard to kill them. And they have a lot of mobility to get away as well. And I think along with these other nerfs to these one-shot abilities, or maybe like things like warrior utility, it would make the game a lot healthier, because it's not an active looking at the health bars ping-ponging back and forth. Instead now, it's about using your cooldowns, having strong bursts, but not, so overbearing that you die in a global. Boomkins, you know what I mean? And we could have healing be a little bit easier to manage as well. So while we take down the top end of the damage, we take down the top end of the healing, and what it comes down to is we have a lot of situations where we can actually see the damage we're doing actually have an effect over the course of the game, and it would just be more fun, in my opinion. And I know this may be a controversial topic, but the thing I really like about classic PvP, even though it's really not balanced, especially for 1v1, is that you actually feel the damage you're doing to a lot of classes. Like, they don't just instantly keep healing themselves to full. Paladins, you get them low, they'll bubble and use their healing spells to get them to full. Priests will also have to use their healing spells, and you can see them cast it, then their health goes up. You can see warriors have no healing, rogues have no healing, mages have no healing. They use bandages, and you can clearly see when they take damage that damage is actually going to mean something, until they have a healer supporting them, or they use bandages or eat food or some sort of thing. Because in the current game, it really feels like the damage you're doing has no impact, and it just feels like 1 second you're gonna kill somebody and the next second they're completely full and they're unkillable. And it's just frustrating, I think, on both ends. For healers, they have a lot of complaints about the damage being super high and it's super stressful for them. And then on the other end, you have DPSers saying like, dang, there are a lot of classes that are just feel unkillable until dampening hits in. Like Holy Paladin, which have a lot of different cooldowns to rotate through. They don't use a lot of mana because of Word of Glory and how powerful it is at the moment for all specs. And I think just reducing the damage a little bit, reducing the healing a little bit, would just make the game a little bit more interesting and fun in general. And we could avoid both this one-shot meta and as well as the BFA dampening meta, where you have to wait 20 minutes to get a kill. And all in all, I think that's where the game should go.